welcome to this week's edition of People Over Politics. It's a very special edition for two reasons. One, we have some special guests in the cannabis ecosystem, and two, it's my birthday. So, well, that one day a year that you celebrate. But I wanted to bring on two very special guests. If you don't know them, in the Maryland DMV area, you will know them soon. I call them superstars, especially Trish. She knows she's well known, and Nurse Laura, who I met recently, who does a lot of work around cannabis science. And so, guys, for people who don't know a lot about you, give them the Reader's Digest version of who you are and what you do.
Who first?
Nurse Laura. Why not? We'll start with you, Nurse Laura.
Hi. Well, thank you for having us, especially on your birthday. Happy birthday.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So I am a registered nurse in the cannabis space. I've been working in the cannabis industry, particularly in Maryland, since before it opened, over 6 years ago now. I helped open a grow facility and processing and multiple dispensaries, and then went out on my own, and I work as a clinical director supporting patients and research and education in the industry. And with Trisha, I work as the clinical director for the Connor Sheffield Foundation. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Okay. And Trisha, how about you?
I am Trisha Sheffield, and I am basically just Connor's mom. That's kind of how I introduce myself. My son is a pediatric medical cannabis patient, and he started using cannabis a few years ago, and we just started running into some issues with him being able to take his medication at school. And so that kind of led into us campaigning for a law to be made here in Maryland for children to be able to have legal access to their cannabis medication at school. And it's called Connor and Rena's Law. And since then, we have been advocating for, just being able to have safe access to, cannabis medication. And my son also started a foundation, and that is for medical research. We are working on that, and medical research, cannabis medical research, and we are really excited to be doing that.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I think I believe earlier in the show's conception, I spoke to you and Connor. I think it was right after the General Assembly. But yeah, so we've if you have been watching the show, we've definitely had Trisha on, but this is the first time we have Nurse Laura, and you're further into the foundation now. So definitely glad to hear that. I most recently went to the Cannonball, if no one's familiar, the bow ball Cannonball, and it was a blast. It was a good time. I don't spend a lot of time on that side of Maryland, but I've definitely been making more trips. There's a lot of dispensaries. But more so like cultivation and processing. So I'm definitely trying to get out in other areas of Maryland and stop being so north central focused. So it was a joy to be down there and to celebrate cannabis and research for cannabis. And so the first question I wanted to ask you was, I saw a cool shirt you were wearing the other day. And or it was actually a hoodie, and I said, I had to get one. So you didn't mention, that. What about the clothing? You guys also have clothing as well?
So Connor just, he has this little clothing line that he basically does it to raise money for cannabis research. He actually takes a portion of the proceeds and donates it to the foundation to help us with the cannabis research. It's called On the High Side Apparel.
Oh, yes. Awesome. Well, I mean, of course, you guys got your hands in many things, and Connor's not on today, but he's, an impressive young man, and definitely, was very proud of him. One of the things that I've realized is like through telling his own story and through, pushing legislation, he's become more of a public servant, right? And he's become a better public speaker, and, you can see him kind of blossom. But, that's what I, try to advocate to everybody. Like, fight for the issues that matter to you and that are important to you, and go to the state house, like talk to the legislators. So I do appreciate him at such a young age being, an advocate for sure.
Thank you.
He does a great job. And he's not even super comfortable talking in front of people, but he does such a great job every time he gets up there and does it. And really, it does make such a difference to hear it right from the horse's mouth, the person who is benefiting from using cannabis.
Sure. I think Royalyn, I hope I said her name correctly, because I always had struggle with that one. She said it best. You could hear the kind of story, a million times and still be moved and inspired by it. And that's very true. It's so very true. And the common misconception that I try to tell everybody is, like, I know that we're in the medical space, right? So what I try to tell people is, like, people use it for medical reasons, but, like, it's perfectly okay if they use it for therapeutic, recreational reasons. So, like, just to segue, I think that it's a quality of life. I think the plant can help improve quality of life.
Absolutely.
Connor's using it for medical reasons still at 17.
Yeah. I mean, we're perfectly clear. We're perfectly clear about that. But you know what I was saying. You know what I was saying. And so there was somebody I had on the show last week, and they were familiar with the Connor Sheffield Foundation, and they basically own a mushroom farm. And so, like, I'm not sure. Have you heard of The Gift or The Garden? Are you familiar with them? And mushroom, and then they also own, like, a hemp farm. So definitely check them out. I'll make sure to forward the contact. They're definitely great people in the space, and I know that, like, it's a husband and wife that run the company. And so the husband, he's been in fitness for like 30 years, and has always been in like growing and plant medicine. And then she's been more on, like, operational side. So they just mesh. But they have some great products. I've actually visited their facility, and they knew you guys firsthand. They was like, oh yeah, is that Trisha and Connor? And I was like, oh yeah, you guys must be superstars, right? Like, but basically we were talking about the medical benefits of the mushroom, but we also talked about some of the medicinal, recreational benefits, right? So I think that one of the conversations that you and I had at the Bow Ball was how like plant medicine has come a long way, but also the study around psilocybin, and how psilocybin can be used more medically. And I think that I'll say it first here, that it should be a push that goes hand in hand with recreational legalization of psilocybin as well. So I'll say it here first today. But what are your thoughts on psilocybin, and, like, how do you feel long term about being used as a medical benefit?
Well, I'm going to tell you that I first learned about the whole medical benefits of it at the Cannabis Science Conference in California. And I would highly encourage anybody to, if they are just interested in learning about it. I believe there are going to have some medical tracks there at the Cannabis Science Conference in Baltimore with some great speakers. I don't have a lot of experience, but I can tell you that what I've learned is that it is an amazing plant, and it looks like it's doing a lot of amazing things for people. I mean, so I'm still new and educating myself in it, but maybe one day we'll be doing some research with that.
Yes. And the best research is self-research, right? But no, there's Laura. Simpatico, do they go well together, cannabis and mushrooms? I think that there's there can be a synergy between the two. And I know that, like, especially if you're growing outside, you have the mycorrhizans, which have mushrooms in the ground, and that really helps the cannabis plant. So what is the medical perspective on psilocybin, at least where we are today?
Yeah, so I appreciate you asking that question, and I do want to just give you the disclaimer that at this point I would not call myself a psilocybin expert
Sure.
either. I am working on that education, becoming more familiar with psilocybin and some of the research and the uses. I'm just much more familiar with the study of all the cannabinoids. However, I do definitely see many people are starting to ask more. My friends at Hopkins, I used to work at Hopkins, they're doing a couple of different research projects with patients and psilocybin, particularly for some of the trauma related disorders. Definitely people that are not seeing results with cannabis alone, or not seeing results with some of the traditional prescriptions, can seem to be benefiting from some of these other options, medicinal mushrooms being one of them. But I just don't feel like I can go on record with
No, of course.
I need
We're
more.
not going to put you on the hook. We're not
I
going to put
need more education. I do know people and patients that have benefited from super microdosing. I think that's the really interesting thing in the cannabis field. I'm constantly urging people to consider super low doses of cannabis and to realize there are different benefits in super low dosing than there are with a moderate to high doses. Not that the moderate to high doses aren't valuable as well, but sometimes daily super low doses can give you one benefit, and then as needed, moderate or higher doses can be beneficial. And I think that that's where I'm seeing some of the information with magic mushrooms, psilocybin, also is that it's these super tiny low doses that with consistency can provide some long-term therapeutic benefit, particularly for people who are in some type of therapy trying to work through something, and it can just help you to have a more open mind and be able to make more breakthroughs. So I think that's important.
You hit on a lot of huge things. One, I will say that microdosing is huge, whether it be cannabis or psilocybin. For me, I will say personal use. We got DC right around the corner, right? So where it is legal in DC, it really helped with focus. So like in the small increments, it really helped the focus, in which some cannabis strands really help improve focus as well. But I commonly try to tell people that, like, the difference from being a recreational consumer, which I once was in the cannabis space. I was a THC chaser, so necessarily going for the high brands and what is cool, what is trendy, right? Outside of becoming a medical patient, then learning more about the terpenes and like, I don't like the effect of that one, or this one, I do like, and then also mixing that with the cousin plant, the hemp plant. So sometimes you don't want that very strong effect. Maybe you got a meeting in the morning, throw some CBD flower in with your THCA flower, and you'll be surprised, because I feel like you have a more balanced effect, right? And as I tell people, some of those high THCs, they just give you a headache. They have no terps, and it's more show sometimes than it is about like a quality product that's good for you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Trisha.
Connor gets a lot of benefits from CBG during the day, and
Sure.
I'm telling you, that's like his thing. It's so important for him. And then also to sleep, CBN. So like THC, I mean, it has to be there because it helps everything else like work properly, I guess. But I like the lower THC stuff. But the problem is that like I feel like it's very hard to find. And even just like for just finding like just CBG or just CBN, like the isolates, it's almost like that is very difficult also to find in dispensaries. I mean, I actually have never even found it.
It's difficult to find CBD and CBD, all the CBD in dispensaries, because like in Maryland, they have to be separate. So like some of the dispensaries have started moving towards like having CBD products, but if you see it, it's usually in a separate room from the medicinal flower, So I mean, yeah, you probably have to go to like, some like wholesalers, or people who specialize in it, not necessarily like a THC medical dispensary.
So just to clarify that, since I opened a grow and I had to deal with all of these compliance issues, I opened Verano way back when. And it's true. So in the medical market, everything has to be tracked through the compliance system metric, and so all of the products has to be grown in Maryland. And up until very, very recently, they all had to be the cannabis plant. It couldn't be the hemp plant. It wasn't even able to be tracked. So the dispensaries, if they wanted to carry a product that was hemp derived, which was more naturally higher in CBD or CBG or CBN, they would have to carry it in their lobby outside of the traditional, the patient access medical space, because it was just tracked through their retail sales system, but not tracked through metric. And so it's really an interesting caveat for patients, because sometimes patients think that whatever they find in that lobby or that retail space of a dispensary is just as reliable and safe and tested as the products that are behind the patient area of the dispensary. And that isn't always true. Some of the products in the retail space of the dispensary might not even be tested. They could come from China. They could come from anywhere. Thankfully, in this DMV area, we do have a lot of good hemp growers and a lot of companies that are putting out good products. But it's important for patients, and part of what I do is help people find those quality companies, understand what the certificate of analysis is, understand what they're purchasing, so they get a quality CBG or CBD or all of the others.
And that's huge. I mean, I would love to visit a hemp farm. I've been visiting, cannabis farm, but I've never been to a hemp farm. So I definitely would love to visit a hemp farm.
Let's plan a trip. We'll all three go.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going next month to visit one in Delaware, but one of my peers is actually tomorrow morning visiting one in Western Maryland. I'm happy to get us. You just tell me who you want to go visit, and really, Martin, any dispensary or grow you want to go to. I because I've was the first person sort of launching Verano. I've really got to know all of the original owners of all these different licenses, and they usually welcome me back, so I can get in the door for like tours and stuff.
I would definitely. There's a few that I haven't been to, like a good handful. So we will plan some trips. I don't mind a good grow trip. So definitely, and then it also lets me visit other areas of the state. So, to get out of the little Prince George's bubble. So,
Fair.
Okay, I look forward to it. And so we were talking about things going on in Maryland. We know that cannabis is going to be on the ballot. I'm sure you, like many other people, are excited about that.
This is every step forward for cannabis helps everybody. So, that's how I feel. That this is just ridiculous that it's like even illegal, and so that's just how I feel.
No. Well, where I was going with that was, I believe it's going to pass the ballot. I believe that we're going to have a conversation about the framework. I just want to make sure that, of course, I think you always hear me say this. I just want to make sure that in the course of legalizing, we don't put equity on the back burner and like say we'll accomplish equity after. Let's just pass it. That's always a concern of mine.
Yes.
So I definitely want to make sure that is, and the social reparative justice measures, things is that as well.
Yes.
But of course, there's another fight, and I know that it's been a concern of not only yours but many people, right? So are we going to get access for hospice care in the future? Is that something that we could look forward to?
So I have to tell you that we hope to have more than hospice care, because we believe that every person should be able to have safe access to their cannabis medication. Okay. So, I mean, hospice is definitely on the list, but also.
But you want to go further, because initially the conversation was around hospice. So, I like that, expanding it.
It depends. We're gonna discuss with the legislators and see what is the best way, and ultimately it will be what they feel is comfortable. But some of the conversations have already been made, that have already been had, and they think we can do it.
And so for someone who might not be tuned into what's happening, in Maryland and also the cannabis world, what exactly are we talking about when we're talking about this legislative measure? Can you elaborate to them?
Yeah. Do you want to speak, Laura?
Sure. So we are working with our peers and friends out in California who passed a law called Ryan's Law. And Ryan's Law it was enacted in 2021, but went into action in January of 2022 to allow terminally ill patients, that was their very specific criteria, in all inpatient settings, hospice, hospital, all inpatient settings, to be able to use their cannabis if they had a medical cannabis card. So you had to be, it wasn't for the adult use population, but if you're a medical cannabis patient, you could use it. And so we are working with them, working with some of our legislators, which Tricia could mention specifically, to sort of copy that, to try to expand it a little. They're trying to expand theirs to palliative care. We want to expand it to more people than just terminally ill patients if possible, such that the hospitals won't be afraid and the healthcare systems won't be afraid to allow cannabis use for fear of losing funding, which is usually the big issue. They're afraid because they get money from CMS that they would lose funding because
it's still federally legal. It's
right.
Still federally taboo. Yeah, sure.
Right.
Okay. And Trish, you want to add anything? I'm sure I got some questions for you guys, but
that was pretty much it. So just to kind of back up, when that law, Ryan's Law, was being introduced a couple years ago, that's when we basically started working on it as well. We were working with Senator Brian Feldman, Delegate Steve Johnson. We were working with them with this issue. We were letting them know that, look, California is introducing a similar law, and this is what's happening. Let's do this. Like, what are we waiting for? That was 2 years ago. A lot's happened in 2 years, and last session was really busy. I believe that the legislators were only allowed to have a certain amount of bills go in. I think they were limited to 5 each, I think. So, and this is like a really important bill, so it was kind of also, they were afraid of also, like what she said about the hospitals losing funding. Everybody is kind of like weary about putting a bill in that most likely wouldn't pass if they only had 5 bills. Well, since then, a year ago, we've been working very hard with the California team, who is so amazing. We met Ryan's father, and he's just a super sweetheart, and he's like really helping us. And they got around the whole, losing funding thing. We've got documents from there. What is it that we have, Laura?
Yeah, we have a document from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid that states that they will not remove funding for a hospital system, healthcare facility that allows patients to use medical cannabis purely because it's medical cannabis. Yeah. So if they're not going to lose funding, then they're more likely. And part of their bill also says, if anything does happen that negatively impacts the healthcare facility, that the healthcare facility immediately has the right to discontinue the cannabis use. So that is just a security blanket for the administrators of hospital systems as well. So,
and this is also for self-administration. So we're not forcing nurses or doctors or anybody to give them their medicine. It'll be for self-administration or for their caregiver, so they can have a caregiver give it to them.
And that's huge, especially the caregiver being able to give it at home. I didn't even know about that part. So that's a big part. But just to lay it out for people at home, you're a medical patient. You did everything you were supposed to, and you use the plant as a life saving, right? Like for me, I'm a medical patient, but it's more quality of life. Right, like it's college injuries, and things like that. But it's definitely more quality of life than life saving. But I've met individuals, who it is life saving, right? And if they aren't able to consume, it wouldn't just be, oh, I have pain here, but it'd be like it's unbearable, for some people. So I just want, people to understand, when I first learned about medical cannabis, not people use, as I commonly say, as people use. When I learned about medical cannabis, I learned about epileptic pediatric patient, and they had to move states to move to a state that allowed medical access. But then 10 years later, that state now has medical and recreational access, right? So it's just kind of like with the times, like, right, like, as I see sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And Connor is one of those people that if he goes into the hospital, if he doesn't have access to the cannabinoids that he uses to manage his symptoms, he's very, very sick very quickly and in a very bad position. Additionally, and I think I shared this at the Cannaball, patients who have weaned off of opioids, whether they were addicted to opioids or just weaned off of them by choice before they became physically addicted, that enter the hospital even for a voluntary procedure, are now immediately, for pain relief, put right back on those opioids that they worked so hard to get off of. And that's one of the things that a lot of my patients struggle with. They struggle with, I don't want to go into the hospital because I don't want to have that back in my system, because I know how easily it is for me to become addicted again and how long it takes for me to get off of it. But there's no other option for pain management right now.
Wow. Yeah, and to say that there's no other option, there's definitely other options. We know of some holistic options, but of course, as you said, federally legal and widely medically accepted. But the thought is like, I remember having a conversation, and I told someone, you can't have a conversation about opioid use and not talking about further educating people on the medical program, making sure that they have recreational, because the thought is, it's like you said, I think one statistic I heard is like, it decreases opioid use for like up to like 30%, or about like 30%, medical cannabis use. And the thought is, it's like, you definitely don't want the triggers when they go back in and they're now forced to, use this, thing that they got addicted to, and, we know that it wasn't just the addictive nature of human beings sometimes, but it was the pharmaceutical companies. It was the doctors. Like, sometimes they're just checking off a box. Boom, boom, boom. I applaud you guys for definitely taking this step, because like I said, it will help Connor, but it's going to help, so many people.
We actually know a little girl named Elizabeth who she has like multiple seizures a day, and cannabis medicine is the only thing that helps her not have the seizures. So like, if she were to go this girl's 5 years old. If she were to go to the hospital and she doesn't have access to her cannabis medication, I believe that there's very strong medicines that she would have to take, and it basically knocks her out, like a zombie. So it's like, but cannabis, she has a quality of life. I don't know. It's just very sad to see like people afraid to be able to get their care because they can't have medicine,
And Laura, what I've seen, and probably Trish, you could speak to this too, is just trying to make seniors more comfortable, right? Like, so that's been a lot of my mission, is like working with the senior population and introducing them to CBD a lot of times, initially CBD, CBG, CBN, and of course just telling them, hey, the root cause of pain is inflammation. I got some great samples that can help inflammation. But the thought is like, a lot of times they just have to be introduced it in a non-threatening way, because I remember that I had some CBD partners that came in. I was doing a senior luncheon, and one of the ladies said, "Oh, that's the weed stuff." Right. So I, when I started speaking, I said, "Hey, I heard somebody say that's the weed stuff, but this is the cousin plant, right? This is the cousin plant to the cannabis plant." And at the end of the day, it's great, and you wouldn't get that intoxicating, giddy effect, but you will get, some medical relief, and it's not an opioid. A lot of times what I've seen is one opioid, after continued use, it causes another opioid, or further opioid. So, why not try this, holistic option? Mm-hmm. And some of them came around. Some of them came around for sure.
A lot of the seniors too, because of like arthritis, they're on 800 milligram doses a day of ibuprofen, or like Motrin.
Sure.
which is so damaging to their gut and their liver. And so being able to use something as simple as a hemp-derived CBD product to reduce that inflammation, help with that arthritis that doesn't damage, actually can heal and protect your gut is amazing for our patients. That's one of the reasons I think it helps Connor, because it's gut protective rather than damaging. So that's a big part of what I do in the cannabis world is help patients figure out what are their pain points, what are the things that are bothering them from whichever diagnosis they have, like just what bothers you. Oh, I have chronic diarrhea, or oh, I have this, right? Whatever it is that bothers you. And then we work and talk about, well, what could that be from? Is that your diagnosis that's causing that? Or is that a side effect of a medication that's causing that? Is that a lifestyle thing? Is it because you're not sleeping? And then we try to figure out how to address that. And part of that solution is often a hemp or a cannabis product that can help to reset your endocannabinoid system, get your body back in balance, give you the energy or the ability, being pain-free, to do more exercise or get better sleep.
Yes, agreed. Agreed. And of course, I just wanted to say that the seniors, one of the things that they feel is like they almost feel like shy to tell me about it later on, right? And I say, hey, no, it's cool. Like, just think of it as drinking coffee. You know what I mean? Like it's regular. It's every day. And then of course trying to get them comfortable. You don't have to combust it. There's many different ways that you can consume to your liking. And I think one of them tried like a tea or a coffee first. And that really worked for her. It helped her with like digestive issues and sleeping. So I was like, hey, that's cool, great. You might have a new tea then, right? But yes. And what were we gonna say, Laura? I'm sorry.
It's really true. The interesting thing about seniors and baby boomers in particular is that, and I need to figure out who the source of this data point that I'm going to mention is. It drives me crazy that I don't know who to reference it to, but I heard it from Dustin Sulak, who's based out of Maine and has some cannabis products here in Maryland. He said a couple years ago a statistic about that baby boomers and seniors tend to jump in on the medical cannabis market more in states that go in with an adult use program as well. So when a state, like if Maryland votes on our referendum this fall and we do enact an adult use or recreational use cannabis, that more of the older generation, the baby boomers, older people, will sign up as medical cannabis patients because it's legal now. But they still want to be in that medical, they want it to feel medical, like they're not doing something wrong, but they feel better about it because now it's legal. So it's interesting. It kind of supports the point that you're saying is they're like shy about it.
And that makes sense. And I almost didn't know that. But I feel as though like specifically in states that go recreational, I think it's still important for them to have a key educational component, right? So like I would always push for them to, make sure to have, different educational components. It necessarily doesn't have to feel like a medical pharmacy, but definitely to still have the education pieces, make sure that, the patient care specialists are educated, just making sure that the education piece is still there, because I do want educated consumers, whether it be a medical market or adult use market.
So, and if anyone's going to the Cannabis Science Conference next week, I know Connor is presenting, Trisha is presenting. I'm also presenting with the board of directors for my organization, the National Clinical Director Consortium. That's exactly our topic, is how healthcare professionals that are educated in cannabis need to be available in all markets, whether it's hemp, whether it's adult use, whether it's medical use. You need to have a reliable, educated healthcare professional to talk through it with.
Yes. Well, of course, Trisha, I didn't know that you were speaking, so definitely big ups to you as well.
I'm right after Connor. I'm just on the parents panel.
Okay. I mean, hey, that's important. That's important. I mean, you told me about it from a parent perspective long before, I got to hear kind of the story personally. So, I can understand that that's very scary as a parent. But yes.
Is there? I'll tell you. Like, I guess the main thing. Things have changed so much in a couple of years, but it's just um, parents just feel like they're afraid to be judged and shamed that they're letting their kid use cannabis, and it's all that. And you know what? It doesn't matter. You're shaving your kid's life. Like that's
I mean,
that's the thing. I don't say.
hey, parents get shamed for their own use, right? Like, and I say
Yeah.
it's okay to be a can of mom, it could be a can of dad. So, as you said, of course, the pediatric side, but definitely don't feel, bad for being a can of dad or a can of mom or a can of grandma, grandpa, right? The auntie, uncle, whoever you might be. What would you say?
I'm gonna tell you that Connor has taught so many people. Like, I know he's helped a lot of people, but he's helped me, and he's helped Michael. He's helped my mom, who has stage 4 cancer. She uses it now, as to help for her pain and nausea. Even Mike's mom, she uses it. Like, Connor has touched so many people, and just seeing him, and I'm like, okay, you know, he's using it and he's getting help. Like, maybe I can too, or maybe it can help you. Like, it's just kind of neat how I learned so much from Connor. He just teaches me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I wanted to, of course we're having fun, but I wanted to make sure to ask you guys a couple rapid questions.
Okay.
So they're not as much like brain activity, but more like this or that. So I think Laura, you're on. Ask you first. Favorite superhero?
Spider-Man.
Oh, Spider. What?
I am just such a fan of Spider-Man. I've always loved Spider-Man. I love how in some of the Spider-Man movies, like the black side, the venom, that the evil comes out, and how I think we all have some of that within us, and we have to be able to control it and maintain and focus on the good and do good. I just love Spider-Man.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. And when you said the black one, I also thought of Carnage a little bit, because I think Carnage.
Yes. Yeah. I get Venom, Carnage, the two of them confused a little.
But they're the same vein. And Trish, how about you? Favorite superhero? Why?
Wonder Woman. I like that lasso. She puts it around people and she can ask them questions and they have to tell the truth.
Okay. Wonder Woman. I'm getting Wonder Woman a lot, so that's very common, and definitely more than I expected. So I'm getting Wonder Woman a lot. Okay. My next question is, maybe either or you can answer this. What state do you feel has the best flower? I'm here in California commonly, but one of my good friends, he's telling me Maine, because of basically the soil there, and the environment, and it's a lot of organic, so.
I've only had access to Maryland and California, because I'm I'm still a newbie. So, but the California was I don't know, they have everything, in any form, sprays, and just anything you could think of. It's amazing. I mean, I'm excited for the rec program to come here, because if they can do all that, that's great.
Yes. You're right. I haven't been to California, at least in that capacity, but I'm definitely looking to check out both of them. Laura, do you have any opinion on what state is doing great, or has the best flower?
Yeah, I would have said California right off the bat, and it's not even because of personal experience as much as all of the industry workers, all of the growers that I work with, everyone, every patient that's ever lived or been out west. It's just common knowledge. Everyone believes that California they've been doing it the longest. They've been focused on it. They just seem to have what it takes. So I would have said California.
And Blair Mitchell. It's smart. It seems so normal there. It's just how afraid, we're afraid of recreational use here. It's so normal there. There's just, I don't know how long it's been legal, but I just they don't even
as it should be. You should be able to smoke a joint anywhere you can smoke a cigarette, right? So as it should be. Okay, well, and so my very last question is favorite terpene and why?
Limonene, because
I love limonene.
Yeah.
Did you say why? Why do you like limonene?
It helps me with energy.
Yeah.
But I probably don't need any of that.
I would say Humulene because Humulene is a mild appetite suppressant, and so many patients, it's the terpene that I talk about the most because so many of my patients are focused on not gaining weight, even though they want to use cannabis. So we definitely have a whole population of people that are using cannabis for the appetite stimulation, like Connor, for example, and the weight gain. But there definitely are a whole lot of users who are not looking to gain weight or have their appetite stimulated. And so whether it's adding humulene as a terpene, like 0.5% or more, or adding some CBD to your THC, that helps to neutralize the appetite stimulant part. And so it's kind of become my favorite terpene because I talk about it a lot. Personally, I like linalool because I need more relaxation. I have enough energy.
Understood. I've never heard Humulene on here. I do know the terp, but great. I'm glad you introduced us to that one. So tell them how they can stay in contact with you. I'm sure we'll have you guys on again during session as it gets closer to session. But definitely tell everybody how they can stay connected with you guys.
For me, you can find me at asknurselora.com.
And you could check us out on Facebook, or you can email me at connorsheffieldfoundation@gmail.com.
Awesome. And do you guys have any events coming up that we should know about in the next couple weeks, months, or?
Yeah, actually, our event coordinator Alex is working on something amazing. I'm so excited. We just don't have a date yet, but it's going to be Canna Bingo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So
keep us abreast.
Huh?
No, I said just keep us abreast for sure, and I'm sure I'll see you soon on one of these tours. I appreciate you guys.
Week. I'm going to see you next week.
Yeah, so the Cannabis Science Conference for sure. That's
You're right. That is, yeah. You know, the days flying by. The Cannabis Science Conference is coming up in Baltimore. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and we'll have a Connor Sheffield Foundation booth.
Oh yes.
And so then the next weekend, Cannabis MD Jackie Cohen Roth has her big event in the daytime, and then at nighttime, T-Pads. I'll be there as well.
Yes, and Tahir, my boy Tahir Johnson, is going to be there. I can't make it because I'm gonna be in Philly, but I encourage people to definitely go. But I'll be at Black Cannabis Week in Philly, so I'll still be repping the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Where is that? Where is that at? Where are they having that?
It's at Philadelphia, so it'll be at like Temple. I think it's at Temple. Like most of the things will be at Temple University. Yeah.
Love that. That's awesome. Yeah, that's not far from where I live, so it's like 45 minutes.
Ah, yeah, you do live a lot closer to Pennsylvania. Yep.
You'll be passing my house.
Yeah, no, exactly. I might hit you guys up on the way, right?
Stop by.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys, and thanks so much. Okay. And of course, continue to remind your friends. Cannabis is on the ballot this November, so
yes. And happy birthday.
Oh yes, I appreciate it. Right,
happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Yes. Right, I got to celebrate life and enjoy it. Always working on to the next thing, but I appreciate you guys.
Have fun and party up.
Have fun and party up. Yes, I appreciate you guys, and I will see you guys soon. And of course, tell Connor I said hello. I know he just started freshman year, so big ups, and definitely get good grades.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Bye, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Okay, that was this week's edition of People Over Politics. We had 2 new guests, so look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good one.